So I think we're going to really need to take a step back, and despite all the amazing anime with so many great fight scenes and productions this season, we might legitimately have to throw from Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman in the contender list of best action of the spring 2025 anime season, which is insane to say. This would not be a show that I would initially think at face value would be in that list, but I've been hearing it for the past couple of weeks from source readers that they were, concerned before the anime came out if this show would be able to live up to the amazing fight scenes in the source material. And I thought to myself, I'm really loving this show, but this isn't the type of show that I would expect to really be like, wow, yeah, I get where you're coming from. But to be honest, after episode 3, I think I'm starting to see why. I have been complimenting this show up to this point, in terms of like, wow, it actually feels more realistic and I liked it. But there's something about the first and last fight of the episode, which were both insanely well done. Now, the thing is when you compliment a show like this that isn't constantly flashy, there's going to be those who only think good animation is, oh my god, the camera spun a shit ton of times or big explosion. There's two vastly different ways to make impressive animation for fights. Overly flashy, bombastic, or super precise, realistic. In my opinion, those are the two ways. So if you're the type who thinks flashy is better, and I'm not saying your opinion's lesser, I'm just saying if you think that's better, you're gonna think I'm crazy for complimenting this one this much. I just ask that you put aside your bias and see it from a different point of view, because if you are someone who likes precision, this show is gonna shit on a lot of different shows this season. You did have some flash at the beginning of the episode with the more magical fight, but if you're telling me the final fight in this episode between student and teacher, the fact that you have this super precise, they're not jumping around, they're not doing dumbass flips, realistically standing their ground, and the way the guy wins is by perfectly piercing his sword through the hilt of her sword where it has like the little loop, disarming her, and then side-swiping her with a kick to bring her to the ground. That was so smooth, so well done, and legitimately, it's wild to think that we have a show that's this realistic despite having magic. You had a guy literally avoid... Okay, every time a character throws fireballs at someone, your MC's gonna try to cut it through. What does this guy do? He runs. The only time he actually stands his ground against fire being thrown at him is when it's small little like embers, and even that was singeing him. The realism and detail to this show is literally next level. Thank you. Of course, so you want to see my full thoughts on these episodes, support my work, we do got the Patreon where we got those full and cut live reactions over there exclusively. So if it isn't clear, I'm liking this show a lot. The biggest surprise though, I gotta be honest. Now, here's the thing, I want to get this out of the way. It doesn't matter if the source material is popular in Japan, like this one is. So many times, a very popular series in Japan don't do well in the English-speaking communities. To Your Eternity has a bit of a cult following in the English-speaking Western side of the fandom. Very popular in Japan. Happens all the time. The fact that Golden Kamuy gets 20 comments on a discussion thread, yet is like an insanely popular show in Japan. Case in point. So, a show like this, which we've been getting a lot of these types of shows as of late, and I've been covering them, so I know what people be looking at and talking about, and I was totally expecting this to be one of the more less talked about shows of the season. I knew I would love it, but to my surprise, Western fans woke up. It's really weird though, because this is an anime season where shows that normally would get discussed because it fits in the criteria that anime fans normally discuss online are barely getting talked about, and the shows that have existed for many seasons before, like I'm not saying you can't say this is a better show than what's come before, but we've had shows like these recently and they slept on it. I don't understand. But then again, we're dealing with anime fans who every other season act like there's a lot of shows to watch, even though every season there's a lot of shows to watch if you just dig past the mainstream crowd. But hey, maybe this is a good sign to come. People are starting to watch the Country Bumpkin show, so maybe people are actually going to start watching shows, but I think it just really depends if people tell them it's popular. I think that's really what it is. But like, let's look at the first fight, right? The first fight, we are going up against someone who uses electricity, fire, and ice. Those are like the three main elemental attacks. And I guess you could include the Black Hole of Death, but she didn't actually cast that, so we'll just push that aside. The fire thing was honestly my favorite part of her fight, because when you see the giant fireball, I'm so used to character slashing it, cutting it in two, right? He ran. The fact that he's like, I can't absorb a giant nuclear sun thrown at me. And the only time he legitimately stood his ground against it is when it was like more pebbles, like it was like the size of pebbles, but it was rapidly. And the fact that even deflecting that was singeing him. That level of realism with a magic versus physical combat scene is just next level. And I love too that she actually pulls away because she's like, damn, I knew this attack would kill you, but you showed no reaction, so I couldn't scare you, so I'm gonna just give up on this fight. Oh, we had a reaction. He was shitting bricks inside of his mind. He just didn't verbally express that, but thanks for the draw, I suppose. And then, of course, we have the fight with our student. And I think they did a really good job, not only with present-day stuff, building up the plot line of saying, hey, like, we need you to go on this quest with these people. It could be very bad. But he says, I mean, even if you're being vouched for, I can't just believe you're talented enough. I'm going to need to see proof. Insert backstory of where one of our pupils, came from. And, despite my distaste for stories when they do this, where it's like, okay, nice mother saves daughter by pushing her into, you had time to jump too. I get maybe just you froze up in the spur of the moment, you saved your daughter. I think the dad would have died no matter what, but I feel like the mom could have jumped in after her. But anime loves to do that, is what it is. I'm still thinking about, if you know, there's a scene in Orb where a character is hanging, and he could have grabbed on the side of a wall, but he didn't. I love those scenes, man. I love and hate them. Either way, we see how she ends up there, and, the fact that she kind of had a second chance at life because of the sword gave her a purpose. And the fact that if she would have been, as she thought, selfish, I bet she could have stayed with Beryl the whole time, but she never did because she thought she'd be overstepping. Either way, it leads to the fight between them, and our boy wins. He's a little too humble. He says, well, 10 more seconds. I doubt I would have been able to do it, but, it flexes how good he was. The whole fight of them was them it's not like they were jumping. This is what you often see because it's overly flashy. I'm not saying swordplay can't be like this, but if you're looking at it in a more realistic fencing sort of way, you're not like jumping and going in circles around each other. No, you're constantly pushing your person back, deflecting. Our boy was mostly on defense for a bit when he realized her one hand was untrained compared to the other. And then what does he do? He disarms her and trips her, and it's game, set, match. The fact that they're making the swordplay this realistic, despite being in a world of magic, is honestly very, very nice, and you can't say that too often about these types of shows. Am I surprised this show's doing this well in the Western side of the fandom? Absolutely. Am I upset that it is? Oh, hell no. I'm just glad anime fans are waking up, because we get a lot of these types of really great shows that just don't get talked about, but maybe there's enough titties at face value to keep people engaged that normally wouldn't watch it. I don't know, but thank God for adult fantasy anime is all I'm saying. You let me know your thoughts down below. Definitely the best episode in my opinion, but you let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon. Tell you why you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Lunchbox Slayer, Joseph, Blue Wizard, Nadia Coles, Annoying Waffle, Jama Boo, Anne, Todd A. Goldway, Petalo, and we also have One Piece Man. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.